All right, we're going to make our own API using Node. All right, this is the fun part. There are third-party APIs we can use that can give us information about everything from puppies to astronomy. But you're going to probably want to make your own API. That way the world can use it. Or maybe start your own business with an API. There's a lot of companies where the API is their business, so which is great. All right, we can use Express, a library that is made for routing and doing all sorts of things that you will need for an API. So I'm going to run down how to do that in TypeScript, what libraries you're going to use, all that fun stuff. So let's get started. All right, so as you can see, I've got like a blank project, no folders, no files, nothing in it. Let's go ahead and make our package.json by doing npm init two hyphens yes. Okay, npm space init space two hyphens yes. No space between the hyphens and the yes. Okay, if you did it correctly, you should see the package.json, which is great. Okay, here it is. And there shouldn't be anything special in here just yet because we haven't done anything. So we need to install our libraries. So we're going to do npm install, or if you want to just do I for short, that's great. Okay, npm I. Now, I have a bunch of libraries I want to install, so I don't want to install them like one at a time, like npm I, library A, npm I, library B. That's a lot of typing, and I don't want to do all that. So let's do express. I also want tsnode dev. I also want nodemon. See how I'm just doing them all in one line with the space in between them. That way I don't have to type them all out. And then I will need types/express and types/node. All right, these are the basic libraries that allow me to use TypeScript with Express. Okay, because Express is JavaScript. Wasn't initially made for TypeScript. So we can just add the TypeScript classes. So let's go ahead and install this. Okay, it should only take a minute or two to install everything. And then if it works, you should see a node modules folder, and your package.json should be updated with all of your libraries in the dependencies section. Okay, so if you ever wondering like, did the thing install correctly, you can look here. All right, and this tells us what we're supposed to have here. We're not going to do any testing right now. So what we're going to instead do is we're going to just put npm start. So we're going to change this to start. And then we're going to do tsnode dev. And then we're just going to go ahead and do index.ts. Okay, this will be how we will start off our program. So we won't have to come back here for a bit. So let's save it, and I'll exit. I also will need the TypeScript compiler, so let's do npx tsc --init. All right, now I'll make a tsconfig.json. Now we're all set to use TypeScript. I have TypeScript installed globally. If you don't, you'll have to do npm I TypeScript. Okay, so that it exists in this folder. I just have it globally on my machine purely for convenience. All right, so we've got basically what we would need to get started. So let's make our first file. We're going to do index.ts. Neat. And then we're going to actually start writing our API. So all an API really is what routes do you expect from the user? So the user will know our routes, and they will go to a different route depending on what kind of information they want, or if they're sending us information. So either they could be requesting information from us or sending us information, maybe like creating something or updating something. So we have to have some way of understanding what does the user want from us. Okay, so that way we can tell the computer what to do in case it gets a certain request. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some imports. I'm going to import express, comma, brackets. I'm going to need application, request, response from express. All right, so you may be wondering like, what the heck is all this stuff? Okay, what this is doing is basically saying I want to use the Express library and then these three classes. Remember we had that Types Express library we downloaded? That's where these classes will come from. All right, now let's actually, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to instantiate an application. So let's do const app, which is of the type application. You can see how it's green. And it equals express.app. Okay, actually just express. Oops, let's do a semicolon. Get rid of that. All right, cool. So this is basically, this creates an Express application. The library takes care of a lot of stuff about routing and middleware, which we will learn more and more as we go on. So all you need to do is this is starting up an application. It has a bunch of stuff that comes out of the box with it. Next, we need a port. Okay, const port equals 3000. All right, the port is what you're making a server. And what a server does, it listens, okay, for requests. It just sits there and waits till someone requests something from it. But the requests come in on a port, and your computer has many ports that requests can come on. That way, like, think of it this way, like, your application is assigned a port. So that means if information comes in on that port, it must be there for that application. So if some things you run will be on different ports, and some things will have reserved ports. I use 3000 because on most computers this one's free, okay, and we'll be able to just use it. It won't collide with something else. All right, let's actually set up some stuff with the middleware. Let's do app.use, okay, express.json. All right, because this is going to be I want to work with JSON in this app. Remember, we saw JSON with using Postman, so I want to be able to use JSON objects, and Express allows me to do that. So what I'm saying with this app.use is I'm setting up basically saying this app is going to use JSON. What else is this app going to use? This app is going to use, okay, express URL encoded, extended, true. This is just for, you don't have to worry too much about what this means. It will help with routing. Okay, cool. Let's write our first endpoint. So all this stuff up here is just like setup. And you're going to see different people do different things for their setup depending on how they want to customize their application. That's all well and good. I just went with something simple. Okay, so we're using JSON. We're encoding URLs. Okay, returns middleware. Parse is, you don't need to totally understand that. It will just do it for you. And we're listing on port 3000. This is all hunky-dory, but we actually need like an actual endpoint that the person's going to like talk to. So remember, an API is a series of endpoints. The user needs to know the endpoints, and depending on which endpoint they hit, the computer will do different things. So let's make a really simple one. So my application will have a get, okay, and the pattern will be this slash. This is when you do just slash and not anything else, then what the slash means is that just basically you'll have their base URL and then nothing after it. Okay, it's called the base. All right, cool. If the user tries a get and they go to the base URL, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to do this function. We're going to do an asynchronous function. Async request response of the type response. Okay, and then this will return a promise, which will be our response. Okay, we're going to use arrow function. Okay, cool. So let's break this down. We have this async keyword to let us know we're doing an asynchronous function. This is an arrow function. It may look a little bit funky because it's TypeScript, but it's still an arrow function. All right, so this asynchronous function, if you want to do an asynchronous function, you need to have this async keyword in front of it. Then, okay, cool. What are the parameters for this function? This function has a request and a response. Great. What does it return? A promise. Okay, a promise of type response. Remember, promises basically means, hey, go do this thing. Usually an API call, but hey, go do this thing, and I promise I'll give you a response back. So the response currently will start off as pending. If it succeeds, it'll let you know it succeeded. If it failed, it'll let you know it failed. You're gonna get some kind of response though. That's the cool thing about promises. You're not gonna drop a penny down a well and just wait to see if it hits the bottom. You're gonna get something back no matter what happens. All right. So what does this function return? It returns the response status 200 because 200 means that the request was successful. And then I wanted to send out a message. We're going to send an object with a message property, and we're just going to put like hi there. All right, cool. This is a very, very, oh, I didn't mean to put a semicolon there. All right, this is a very, very simple API, right? So basically what we're saying is I would like to, if the user goes to the home URL, okay, again, base URL, and then nothing after it. Okay, cool. They got to the base URL. What do I want the computer to do? I want it to run this asynchronous function. Okay, this asynchronous function will request a response and will return a promise, okay, with the response. Cool. Let's say it succeeds. It will, of course, succeed. So if it succeeds, I want you to return a response with the status of 200 and then send this JSON object, which is message, hi there, okay, with the rest of it. Now, currently, we haven't actually told our server to run yet. Okay, right now, all it is, we have like setup, and we have an endpoint. We actually haven't told our server to actually start. So we need to do app.listen. The listen function says, okay, cool. I want you to like turn on and then wait for someone to send you a response. Okay, remember the whole point of a server is it sits there and waits until someone gives it, someone sends something to it. Okay, it's waiting for messages. It's waiting for the outside world to communicate with it. It will not do anything unless someone sends a request. So we have to tell it to listen for said requests. Okay, cool. Listen will take port as one of its parameters. I want it to listen on a certain port. And then I'm going to do another callback function, void. Okay, returns nothing. And then basically what I'm trying to say is, hey, if like it's listening and everything's like going well, then what we can do is do console.log listening on port. Okay, this lets me know in case like anything there's like a problem for some reason the app doesn't start up. Okay, it will crash. But if it starts up if it starts up properly, then I will see this saying listening on port 3000 in this case. All right, let's actually try to turn this on. All right, just to make certain, go back to your package.json. Make sure you have it say start. And see how TS node dev is like all one thing with the hyphens in between? TS node dev. Index.ts, which is this file. Right? If this is set up properly, all you have to do to start running your server is do npm start. It'll run TS node dev, and now it's listening on port 3000. All right, so you're saying to yourself, okay, this is cool, it's listening on port 3000, but how do I actually communicate with this API? Like, all it's saying is listening on port 3000. I don't see anything. Okay, you're going to need to open up Postman. Okay, I'm going to open Postman real quick, and then we're going to actually call our API. All right, here we go, Postman. Okay, Postman is what we're going to use to figure this out, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to go ahead and hit this plus sign up here. All right, so now this is running on your machine. So what we're going to do is what's called localhost. All right, localhost is basically like your machine. Okay, it's a server running on your machine. So it says go to your local IP address, which is like 127.0.0.1, something to that effect. But you can just put localhost. And we're going to do this a colon and 3000. The colon says, hey, what port do you want me to connect on? I want you to connect on port 3000. Okay, we're going to do a get. It should default to get. Remember, if you put this drop down here, you can have the different HTTP verbs. We're going to use get for right now, and then we're going to hit send. Okay, so see how it sends a JSON object with hi there? Okay, that was what was in our code. Okay, and so now you've built your first API. Okay, all it did was it responds to a get request at the base URL. And again, notice how it's just localhost and nothing else after it. This is the base. Okay, there's nothing else after it. On port 3000, and it gives us back this JSON object. It just says hi there. Okay, we'll talk about what other HTTP verbs you can use and how we would use them, but this is just a simple start for you to get set up and working with Node.